Actually, I should just make that beginning part. Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I had a thought of a puzzle that I actually had planned to make as episode 6 of this series when I was planning it over a month ago. Now, the reason it got pushed back was because I had a lot of other interesting ideas and things that were more feasible as modifications started to be pushed ahead, and I just completely forgot about it until now. I figured after I'd finished making the Penrose cubes that because I wasn't going to be doing any more modifications like that I might squeeze in one that used part of it along with a lot of other stuff. The puzzle in question is a heart cube. Now, I've seen a 1x3x3 version of this puzzle, but I've never seen a fully functional 3x3 version, so I wanted to make one in this series. Now, a while ago, I used to use YJ Guanlongs, and I thought about making this puzzle, but the main problem with that is that I couldn't cut down far enough into the mechanism because it was so big and chunky. But as I've explained previously, I now use Chi sails, which have a much smaller and tighter and more compact mechanism, which I can cut into a lot more freely. So I have a fair idea of how I'm going to go about doing this puzzle, but there are a couple of little details that I haven't quite worked out yet. So I'm just going to jump straight into this modification and get started, and we'll see where it goes. But anyways, let's get started. Alright, so I had a fair idea of how I was going to go about making this puzzle. There wasn't too much of a difficulty to it, although there was going to be a bit of a challenge, but we'll get to that in a moment. For now, I took the center caps out and I tightened up the puzzle so that it wouldn't turn. Now, I know I say this in pretty much every one of my videos and it gets a little repetitive, but I can't stress enough just how important it is to tighten a puzzle up so that it doesn't turn while you're cutting it with a power tool like a bandsaw or whatever it is that you're using. But anyways, the puzzle wasn't turning and everything was looking good, so I took it over to my bandsaw and I tilted the table on my bandsaw to... what should I tilt it to? 39 degrees or 52 degrees? Why didn't I just do 45 degrees like I always do? So I tilted the table on my bandsaw to 45 degrees and then I proceeded to cut 2 of the edges off. After I did that, I leveled the table out and then I proceeded to cut a 3rd edge off a little bit deeper than the rest. So after I did that, everything was kind of in a heart shape. In fact, it looks a little more like a diamond than a heart. But then I disassembled part of the puzzle and I just got the pieces looking around about the shape of a heart before I moved on. This involved clipping down a couple of the cubies off some of the mechanism parts of the pieces. This is very similar to a lot of no epoxy mods that I made in my previous 30-day 30 build series, and if you want to check some of those out, I'll leave links in the description of this video to some videos that you might like. But anyways, it was time to fill the pieces up, so I stuffed them with some tissue paper, and I filled the pieces with epoxy sculpt. Now, to save time and materials, I swapped a couple of edges out for some Penrose cube edges for a Penrose cube that I didn't actually finish. Can you believe that I actually had some of these pieces lying around? And everything was looking round about where I wanted it to be, so I took the puzzle over to my belt sander and then I rounded it off into the shape that I wanted. Now, because there was a concave section of this heart shape, I couldn't do all of it on the belt sander, so I got it round about where I wanted it, and then I did the rest by hand. So I got my nail file out and I just rubbed it down the sides of the pieces on the inside to kind of knock off that sharp ridge and round it off into more of a heart shape. I disassembled the puzzle so I could round off each of the pieces individually. Now, I still had a little bit of work to do because I wanted to knock off the sharp ridge a little further, and it was a lot easier to get to it while the puzzle was disassembled than while it was assembled. So I did that and I rounded everything off and I made it all look pretty nice, and then I reassembled the puzzle to check and make sure that it looked like a heart. Now, it didn't look perfectly like a heart, especially if you compare it to the 1x3x3 heart-shaped puzzle, but I was kind of expecting that because even though I wanted it to look exactly like that, I did have to respect the mechanism, which was a crucial part of this puzzle, and I kind of had to keep it there. After everything was looking good, I took it over to my paint box and I painted it black, and then I got my sticker material out so I could cut the stickers for the puzzle. Now, because I was making a heart cube, I decided to go for some hearty colors, and so I got a red, pink, purple, and fuchsia out, and I thought this 4-color scheme would look really nice on this puzzle. I also really like the pink because it matched my shoes. There are a lot of puzzles that I've made in this series that in practice haven't turned out as well as I theorized them to be, but this puzzle is not like those. This one actually looks exactly like I expected it would, and it looks fantastic. As far as the actual turning quality goes, it's pretty good, and I really like that no epoxy piece in the center that adds a really unique look to this puzzle. Now, I have to be completely honest, the actual cutting of these stickers is terrible, but I wanted to get some footage of this puzzle before the sun went down, and so it was kind of a rush job, but I still think it turned out really nice. I scrambled this puzzle up and I did a solve, and I was actually surprised to see that it was a little more challenging than a regular 3x3 solve. And along with that, it was also very difficult to actually hold the puzzle because partway through doing finger tricks, the puzzle kind of disappears because there are a couple cubies that don't really exist on this puzzle. But overall, I think it's pretty cool, and I encourage you to build one for yourself. It actually taught me a little bit about shaping pieces because I couldn't rely on the belt sander like I usually do. I am kind of dependent on power tools sometimes, so it's definitely kind of a shock to the system when I can't use them to shape a puzzle. So I think just for that aspect alone, this was a kind of interesting build, and I actually really enjoyed it. But anyways, I hope you guys like this puzzle just as much as I do. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. It's always so hard to get these caps off.